Hello, Buddhas. Today we are going to talk about some of the incredibly important things that I do every morning. Now, Buddhas, before we get started, I just want to let you know that we've got a playlist down below that you can watch for a spiritual awakening. And if you're wondering what you can do every single day, well, the most important thing that you can do is to do something consistently. Let me explain a little bit by what I mean. If you get up in the morning and watch cartoons, and that becomes your daily set point, then that's what your body is going to expect you to do every single morning. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all go through parts of our lives where that is what makes complete and utter sense. But for me right now, I'm elevating my life. I am elevating my consciousness. I am working on me to be the greatest possible being that I can. And there's a couple key things that I do every single day that are contributing to that. And I've got a playlist down below actually where I talk about this in one of my videos, where habit forming is not necessarily about taking massive action and completely drastically changing yourself overnight, but it's about taking the little steps and repeating them enough times so that they become ingrained. And why I mean that is one of the first things I started doing in the morning was meditating. So I would get up out of bed, and the only thing that I would ask myself of that morning to do that's extra or special or change is to get up and sit on the couch and meditate. And I've been doing that now for several months, and it's not even negotiable for me anymore. When I get up out of bed, I want to go meditate. It's like the first thing I want to do every single morning. And I believe that this is the secret, honestly, because I started doing it every single day, and it was the only thing that I tried to change. I only changed one thing at a time. And in doing that, I was able to set meditation as habit number one. So step one, meditate every morning. Usually for me, it's about a half hour. I play some relaxing music so that I can't hear anything out and about in the morning, because I live downtown and it can be a little noisy. And I wear a blackout so that I'm completely still dark, so that the sun doesn't wake me up. So meditate first thing in the morning. I made that a habit by just doing just that, and now it is a habit. The second thing that I've started to add to my morning routine is reading my manifesto. So I have actually written out a little book that has a lot of really key parts to what I believe my life should be. And shout out to Quasi, because his work is actually what has gotten me to do this, and it is the next step that I have started to change the game with. So I read this little book every morning before I meditate now. So those are two things that I do. And I've been doing that book now for about 2 weeks, and it feels like, yeah, I've got to do this now every single day. It's non-negotiable already. And the reason that I love this is that I'm adding things to my morning routine. My morning is not getting less busy. It's not like I'm suddenly replacing other things. It's just because I'm adding stuff to my routine, and because I'm actually excited to get out of bed in order to do these things, it's super easy to get out of bed all of a sudden. Another thing that I started doing, step number 3, is how do you fit all of this crazy into your morning routine? It's actually extremely easy. Get out of bed. Now, how do you learn to get out of bed faster? Because that's my step number 3, is getting out of bed earlier in the morning. You don't drastically change what you're already doing. So for me, before, let's say, quarantine situation hit, I would be getting out of bed sometime around 7, leave for work 7:30, work at 8. When quarantine hit, I was still getting out of bed at 7 and working at 8, but I had that whole hour. So instead of having to commute anywhere and get ready, put on a suit or do anything like that, I had that entire time to dedicate to me, and then I sit down at a desk that's literally 2 feet away from me right now. So this is extremely powerful because I realized that my morning was up to me. And now I've gotten this down to a point where instead of getting out of bed at 7, I'm getting out of bed closer to 6. And you may say, well, quarantine started like a year ago, and that you've only made a difference of an hour. But let me remind you here, Buddhas, that this is not getting out of bed at 6 so that I can get things in so that I can make it to work on time and do that stuff. I still have that same buffer, but what I've really done now, instead of having 1 hour in the morning to get into meditation and feel good about myself before I start working, I have 2. And the reason that this is so powerful is that I actually want to get up out of bed in the morning. You're not going to get out of bed in the morning if you don't want to. It's like forming any habit. Again, I've talked about this in the playlist down below. You have to want it, and then it doesn't become difficult. Willpower, in my opinion, is a useful thing to determine what you want and to maybe get out of bed that first time when you're kind of like a little groggy, you're like, I could do it. But your willpower runs out. And anytime that I'm trying to force my way uphill, pushing the boulder, you get squished. It does not work. So what I've started to do is to want to be a certain way, put all my willpower into seeing myself in that light, and then the action in the physical world manifests itself automatically for you. So in recap here, Buddhas, every single morning I get out of bed around 6 a.m. now. Not in the 5 o'clock club yet, but guess what? That's a part of the goal for 2021, getting it down another hour. And I'm not making this crazy goal overnight. I'm making this a life set, a set point that I'm gradually attaining, and it doesn't feel negative at all. It feels incredibly positive, and every time I get out, I feel good. So, again, to actually recap, getting out of bed around 6, whatever time specifically works for you is what you need to do, but for me it's 6, meditating for about a half hour, and then my journal, reading about the person that I want to be. So Buddhas, remember, the absolutely most important thing that you can do is to love yourself.